would say that it's essentially about the unlikely story of a guy who grew up in rural Oahu, who made good, who became. The book is essentially a success story about Rudy, and it's sort of, you grow up sometimes and it feels like the cards are stacked against you, but he managed to. I mean, just through sheer effort and hard work, mostly, to just make it. I would say that that's what the book is
It's
about.
funny to hear that because I don't see it as he does. From looking in, I just don't. It's I just kind of just went through my life, and I had some hard times. Obviously, I wasn't born with a silver spoon. Obviously, growing up in Kahaluu, so did he. I mean, it could be a autobiography of him also. I mean, we grew up. Got a mile from each other in rural Kahaluu, and we just kind of did what we had to do. We didn't follow the crowd. We wanted to follow the crowd, but we didn't, and now we're here. So, I mean, he always gives me credit for oh, you did so great, so great. But I say the same thing about him. I mean, God, you did amazing. I mean, just like you said before, I mean, this is his 7th award. I got one. I'm like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever. He goes, yeah, I got 7. You can have that. I'm like, wow, I'm gonna take it. It's great. Yeah.
Well, essentially, he was in the mainland for a long time, and we were always super good friends, but there was a lot of distance, and we sort of marriage, kids, all of that going on at the same time, career. But I mean, he was kind of homesick. I mean, that's why he's on the Big Island now. So he was writing stuff. I mean, just thinking
That's
about
how I
home
coped with the mainland. I mean, I didn't belong in the mainland. The mainland was great. I learned my trade, but I didn't belong. That's when Chris came in.
Yeah. So he sent me just stuff that it was just stuff that he was working on, and just about how remembering back on the past, how he was feeling at that moment, and how he missed home, and we started talking because what I saw was essentially an inspirational story. Is because there's so many, even me, I'll admit that I've always had a fear of leaving this place, local kid, all of that kind of stuff, and so when I was reading his stuff, I was thinking that, man, I should have done that. I should have at least a small portion of my life, or maybe more, gone to the mainland, tried to, expand sort of my scope of experience. And I feel like once I saw that message that felt inspirational, we both agreed, like, hey, let's try to make a book.
And it's funny he says that, because he looks at it that way, and I look at it as every year on the mainland, I mean, I liked it. I had friends, I got married there, I met my wife, I had my kids there. It was great. But he says that, oh, I wish I'd done that. And I wish I was strong enough to be able to stay here. But I had so much, I don't want to say negative influences, but I had so many influences that I knew was keeping me down from exploring the world. And I tell all my students, when I lecture at Kamehameha and stuff like that, I go, you got to go out. And then I show them the same thing. I show them the cafeteria. When I was at Harvard University, the first time I ate lunch, I went into the cafeteria, and the cafeteria looked like it's Harry Potter's. It's where they filmed Harry Potter. It's the cafeteria. I went in there. I'm like, okay, Hawaii has none of this. And so I was like, oh my God, so this is what the world has. And it kind of opened my world up. However, I needed that to achieve what I had. Because I thought, I'll just go through life and this is all I have to offer. He stayed here. And he was able to see past all the, hey, let's party, let's go do dumb stuff, hey, forget school. And he became a professor at a university, where I couldn't have done that. I needed to go away. So I think him and I are kind of giving each other credit for different strengths of ours.
I totally give him more credit. was pure fun.
Oh my God.
I mean, really, I mean, because it was essentially,
He was scared at first, I think.
No,
Because, come
I mean,
on.
no.
Because I think a lot of people collaborate, and we were just talking about this, and I think it's from medicine. You know, when you're in medicine, you're never going to argue with the chief surgeon going, oh, I think we can take this spleen out differently. You know what I mean? So you sit there and you watch because you know he's doing his art. And so when I gave him my manuscript, he just started ripping it apart, throwing pages out, like, this is wrong, this, that. I'm just like, oh, that's great. And I was just waiting for the end result, going, wow, this is great. I mean, we'd be on the phone for hours and hours talking about stuff. I'm like, why is he even asking that? And then at the end result, I'm like, oh, that's why he asked it. That's amazing. So for me, it was fun. It was hard emotionally. It was hard.
Yeah, there's some things
because
that are
in the
hard,
book, you know, I almost die. I mean, it was a hard couple months of me. I mean, he would call me, and I would be like, oh my, I don't want to talk about it because it was tough. But at the end result, I know why he did it, and I appreciate it. So I loved the interaction. The interaction was amazing.
Well, you know, I would say that it was essentially, it's funny because it was a productive excuse to reconnect. You know,
Yeah,
it was,
no,
I mean,
absolutely.
so it's sort of, and you know, it's that whole, you know, blah blah blah, the cliche, you know, you see a friend that you haven't seen in 10 years, and it's like nothing's changed. And so it was an excuse for me to go to the Big Island once a month,
Yeah.
an excuse for us
For
to
me to
just
come
talk on the
over here,
phone,
yeah.
and it was fun. It was a fun. So there was
I don't think
never
there was
any.
one bad thing about doing the book.
There was
One.
never a moment where
Yep.
it was any situation where it was, oh, I don't know about that,
Right.
or it was just,
And I think it's because he
Yeah.
respected me and I respected him for the things we're telling you about earlier in the interview. I mean, it was totally that. The biggest insight I had was I know I do not know how to write. Straight up, honestly, I don't know how to write.
um, no, and that he's you know that's not true because there's a lot of the large number of the passages in that book are basically what he wrote, especially the fishing stuff. You know, I mean but you know, my father didn't torture him as much as his father by dragging him out. You know what I mean? I got tortured a little bit. This guy got, you know, that whole seasickness thing. I couldn't describe it better. I mean, it's so there's, you know, so that there's, you know, he can write. I think that for me, it was interesting writing something that was so optimistic. You know, so it was an interesting challenge compared to what I had written in the past. So I think that, you know, if I learned anything, you know, maybe I want to do a little bit more of that.
You know, and it's funny because, you know, he's got, you know, when we're signing books and stuff, he's got a long line, and I'm kind of watching this, and I'll have people come next to me, and they're like, oh, you know, why'd you guys do this book and stuff? And they're always saying, you know, they love the dark side that he writes. You know, he writes about the underbelly of society, which is awesome. And we all read his books. But then everyone who comes to me is always like, I love that he can turn it 180. I love that. And that is, it shows a different side of his talent. I mean, I have nothing, obviously, from this interview, I have nothing but respect for his writing. And I agree. I mean, to turn like a complete dark side writer to a very optimistic writer, and both, you know, award-winning books, or well, many award-winning books, it's amazing. It's a testament to just pure writing skill.
You know, there's that old story. You know, whenever I'm asked that, you know, what I'll remind people of is the story of Sidney Pollack. You know, the great producer director. You know, who I love. You know, and of course, unfortunately, he passed several years ago. And they went through his office afterwards, and it was filled with screenplays and the, you know, book rights and stuff of all of the stuff that he didn't make. So there's no, I mean, it's sort of, to get a movie made, it's just, I mean, you have to jump through about 100 hoops, and you have to successfully clear each one. We'll see. But I never bank on it. It's just, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And just because, I've optioned stuff before, I've sold rights before, and I've written an independent film and a short film, but that wasn't via books. That was, just me doing my thing on my own. And the book thing, it's a challenge. It costs a lot of money to make a movie. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me about making it be a movie is if Brad Pitt's available.
Yeah. Dye his hair red.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah,
here we go.
Yeah.
I mean, you want my honest answer. I mean, is he available or not?